Everyone looks rich today. New cars, dream vacations, expensive dinners, perfect lives on your screen. Scroll long enough and it feels like you're the only one struggling. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of that wealth isn't real. Behind the photos and highlight reels, the numbers tell a very different story. Record levels of debt, empty savings accounts, and millions of people living one paycheck away from disaster. What you're seeing isn't prosperity, it's performance. In this video, we're going to expose the gap between appearance and reality. You'll see why looking rich has become easier than ever, why even high incomes often lead to financial stress, and how this illusion quietly traps people for decades. This isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. Because once you understand what's really happening behind the scenes, you can stop chasing appearances and start building something real. And to do that, we need to understand. To understand why this illusion feels so convincing, we need to look at the system that makes it possible. Today, looking rich doesn't require wealth, it requires access. Access to credit, financing, and carefully curated images designed to impress. In the past, wealth was harder to fake. You needed years of savings, ownership, and stability. Now, almost everything can be rented, financed, or delayed. Cars come with low monthly payments, vacations are split into installments, even everyday purchases are pushed through buy now, pay later buttons. It makes spending painless in the moment and painful later. At the same time, social media amplifies this effect. Platforms reward visibility, not honesty. People rarely post their credit card balances, their anxiety about bills, or the arguments caused by money stress. What you see is the final product, not the financial cost behind it. Over time, this creates a dangerous illusion. Everyone else is doing better, spending more, and somehow managing it all with ease. This illusion becomes even stronger because it's normalized. Friends, coworkers, and neighbors all seem to be upgrading their lives at the same time. Bigger homes, newer cars, better lifestyles. When everyone appears to be moving forward, standing still feels like falling behind. But here's the invisible problem. Much of this progress is built on debt, not wealth. Monthly payments replace ownership. Appearances replace security. And because the consequences are delayed, the system feels sustainable, until it isn't. This is why so many people feel constant financial pressure without fully understanding why. They're not failing, they're participating in a game where the rules are designed to hide the real cost. And once this environment is set, income alone won't save you, which leads us to the next uncomfortable reality.
At first glance, it seems logical to believe that more money solves everything. A higher salary should mean less stress, more savings, and greater freedom. Yet for millions of people, the opposite happens. As income rises, so do expectations, expenses, and pressure. This is known as lifestyle inflation. Each raise comes with a bigger apartment, a nicer car, better restaurants, and more rewards for working hard. None of these upgrades feel irresponsible on their own. In fact, they often feel deserved. The problem is that expenses quietly rise at the same pace as income, leaving little or nothing left over. From the outside, these individuals look successful. They earn six figures, they live in good neighborhoods, they appear financially secure. But behind the scenes, their margin for error is dangerously thin. One missed paycheck, one medical bill, one unexpected expense can trigger a financial crisis. This is why high-income households are often just as stressed as lower-income ones. The bills are bigger, the commitments are longer, and the lifestyle is harder to maintain. The money comes in fast, but it also goes out fast. What remains is not wealth, but dependence on the next paycheck. The most dangerous part is psychological. When income is high, people assume they're doing something right. They ignore warning signs because the system hasn't collapsed yet. Credit cards fill the gaps, bonuses patch the holes, everything looks fine until it isn't. This is the moment where many people realize a painful truth. Income is not protection. Without control, structure, and intention, more money simply creates a more expensive version of the same fragile life.
And once spending habits are locked in, debt becomes the glue holding it all together, which brings us directly to the real engine behind the illusion. Debt is the silent engine that keeps the illusion of wealth running. It allows people to live lives today that their income cannot truly support tomorrow. And because it operates quietly in the background, many don't realize how deeply it controls their financial reality. Credit cards are the most obvious example. What starts as convenience quickly turns into dependency. Small balances roll over, interest accumulates, minimum payments give the impression of control, while the total debt grows unnoticed. Over time, income is no longer used to build wealth, but to service the past. Auto loans follow the same pattern. Cars are marketed through monthly payments, not total cost. A $50,000 vehicle doesn't feel expensive when framed as a manageable number per month, but those payments stretch for years, locking people into working just to maintain an image they don't truly own. Then there's student debt, often justified as good debt, yet rarely questioned once the degree is earned. Many graduates step into adult life already burdened, forced to structure their careers around debt obligations instead of opportunity. Add personal loans, credit lines, and buy now, pay later plans, and the financial picture becomes even more fragile. What makes this system so dangerous is how normalized it has become. Debt is no longer seen as a warning sign, it's seen as a lifestyle tool. Almost everything can be financed, delayed, or split into payments. This creates the illusion that money problems have been solved when they've only been postponed. The real cost of debt isn't just interest, it's lost flexibility. It's the constant pressure to keep earning. It's the inability to take risks, change careers, or slow down. Debt turns income into obligation and future earnings into promises already spent. And because everyone around you is doing the same thing, the danger is easy to ignore. The system doesn't collapse all at once, it cracks slowly, quietly, and personally, which is why so many people feel trapped without knowing exactly when it happened. But once debt becomes the foundation, even a stable income isn't enough, and that's how millions end up living paycheck to paycheck. Living paycheck to paycheck is often portrayed as a problem of low income, but the data tells a different story. This reality affects people across income levels, including those who appear financially comfortable from the outside. The common factor isn't how much they earn, it's how exposed they are. When every dollar of income is already assigned to bills, payments, and subscriptions, there is no buffer. Savings become optional. Emergencies become crises. A simple car repair or medical bill can instantly push someone into deeper debt, not because they're careless, but because their system has no margin. This fragility is rarely visible. People continue to show up to work, pay their bills on time, and maintain their lifestyle. But beneath the surface, they are constantly balancing, shifting due dates, and hoping nothing goes wrong. Financial stability becomes an illusion maintained by timing rather than strength. What makes this especially dangerous is how normalized it feels. When everyone around you is doing the same, living without savings doesn't feel reckless, it feels normal. Credit cards and overdraft protection are treated as safety nets, even though they only deepen the problem. The true definition of financial security isn't income or possessions, it's resilience, the ability to absorb shocks without panic, the ability to pause, adjust, and respond. Without that resilience, even a good life on paper becomes exhausting to maintain. This is why so many people feel stuck despite doing everything right. They followed the path they were told would work. They earn, they spend, they repeat. But the system leaves no room to breathe. And when breathing room disappears, people look for stability in the next logical place, housing. Unfortunately, that's where the illusion becomes even more expensive.
For many people, buying a bigger home feels like progress. It's seen as a symbol of success, stability, and arrival. But in reality, housing is one of the fastest ways the illusion of wealth turns into long-term pressure. Mortgages are often sold based on what you qualify for, not what truly protects your future. When buyers stretch to the top of their approval range, they commit most of their income to one single expense. The monthly payment may seem manageable at first, but it quietly limits everything else. Beyond the mortgage itself, homes come with hidden costs. Property taxes rise, insurance increases, maintenance never stops, repairs arrive without warning. Over time, the house that was supposed to provide security becomes a constant financial obligation that demands more money, more work, and more attention. This is how people become house poor. On paper, they own valuable property. In reality, they have little flexibility. Vacations are postponed, investments are delayed, emergency savings are neglected, all because the house consumes the majority of available cash flow. The illusion persists because home ownership looks impressive from the outside. Large spaces, nice neighborhoods, and social validation reinforce the idea that everything is going well. But wealth is not about what you own, it's about what you can do. And when your income is locked into fixed payments, your options shrink. True financial freedom comes from margin, from choices, from the ability to adapt. A home should support your life, not control it. And when housing becomes the center of your financial world, status replaces strategy. This is where many people realize too late that looking successful and being secure are not the same thing, especially when the next temptation, status spending, enters the picture. Status spending is one of the most expensive habits people rarely question. It doesn't feel reckless because it's socially rewarded. Nice clothes, the latest phone, a luxury car, these purchases signal success even when they quietly undermine it. The problem isn't enjoying money. The problem is using consumption as proof of worth. When spending becomes a way to validate progress, it shifts from choice to obligation. People buy not because they need something, but because not buying feels like falling behind. The pressure isn't financial at first, it's psychological. Modern marketing understands this perfectly. Products are no longer sold for what they do, but for what they represent. A car represents success, a watch represents discipline, a lifestyle represents arrival. And because these symbols are visible, they feel more real than savings accounts or investments that grow silently in the background. What makes status spending especially dangerous is its opportunity cost. Every dollar used to impress is a dollar that can't compound, protect, or generate freedom. The loss isn't immediate, which makes it easy to ignore. But over time, these decisions stack up, delaying financial independence by years or even decades. There's also a hidden trap. Once a certain standard is set, maintaining it becomes mandatory. Downgrading feels like failure, even if it's the smarter move. This locks people into spending patterns that no longer serve them, but are difficult to escape without discomfort. True wealth doesn't require constant proof. It doesn't need approval. It grows quietly, often invisibly, while attention is focused elsewhere. And this creates a sharp contrast. The people who look the richest are often working the hardest to maintain appearances, while the people building real wealth are usually the least noticeable. Understanding this distinction is crucial because when we look past status and appearances, the numbers start telling a very different story about who is actually wealthy and who isn't. When you remove appearances and look strictly at the data, a surprising pattern emerges. The people who actually build wealth rarely look the part. They don't stand out, they don't advertise success, and most of the time, you wouldn't notice them at all. Studies consistently show that self-made millionaires tend to live below their means. They drive cars for many years, live in modest homes relative to their income, and avoid unnecessary debt. Their money isn't tied up in monthly payments or status symbols. It's invested, working quietly in the background. What separates them from everyone else isn't luck or extreme income, it's behavior. They prioritize ownership over appearance, cash flow over consumption, long-term compounding over short-term validation. While others use raises to upgrade lifestyles, they use them to increase investments. Another key difference is consistency. Real wealth is rarely built through dramatic moves. It's built through boring habits repeated over time. Automatic investing, controlled spending, clear financial rules that remove emotion from decisions. This approach doesn't create exciting stories, but it creates results. Perhaps the most uncomfortable truth is this: Many people who look wealthy are actually fragile, while many people who look average are financially free. The gap between perception and reality is massive, and it grows wider every year as social pressure increases. The numbers don't lie. Net worth grows when expenses stay low and investments stay steady. And when you understand this, the illusion starts to crack. You stop asking, "How can I afford that?" and start asking, "What does this cost my future?" Once this mindset shift happens, comparison loses its power. And without comparison, the influence of social media begins to fade, which is where the illusion first took root for many people.
Social media didn't create financial pressure, but it amplified it. What was once occasional comparison is now constant, algorithm-driven, and unavoidable. Every scroll presents curated success, making extreme lifestyles feel normal and attainable. The problem is that social platforms reward attention, not accuracy. Content that looks expensive performs better. Luxury, travel, and consumption generate clicks, likes, and validation. What you don't see are the sponsorships, the debt, the financial stress, or the months of instability behind a few perfect moments. This creates a distorted reference point. When everyone online appears to be upgrading their life, staying disciplined feels like falling behind. Saving looks boring. Investing feels slow. Spending feels justified. Over time, comparison quietly rewires decision-making. The psychological cost is significant. People don't just spend more, they feel worse about spending less. Financial restraint starts to feel like failure, even when it's the smartest move. And because this pressure is emotional, logic alone struggles to fight it. The most dangerous part is subtlety. No one tells you to overspend. No one forces the comparison. It happens naturally, gradually, and invisibly. The result is a generation chasing lifestyles instead of building foundations. But once you recognize this dynamic, its power weakens. Comparison loses authority when you understand it's engineered. And when you stop measuring your progress against someone else's performance, clarity returns. That clarity sets up the most important distinction of all, the difference between appearing wealthy and actually being wealthy, a line that changes how every financial decision is made. The difference between looking rich and being rich is simple but uncomfortable. Looking rich is about spending. Being rich is about owning. One is visible, the other is effective. When someone looks rich, their money is usually gone the moment it arrives. It flows straight into payments, upgrades, and lifestyle maintenance. The reward is immediate approval and social validation. The cost is long-term dependence on income. Stop earning, and the entire structure collapses. Being rich works in the opposite direction. Money is used to acquire assets, investments, businesses, and systems that generate value over time. These choices rarely attract attention. There's no applause for a growing brokerage account or a debt-free balance sheet, but these decisions quietly reduce pressure and increase options. This distinction changes how purchases are evaluated. The question shifts from, "Can I afford this?" to, "What does this delay?" Every dollar spent has a future version. It could become security, freedom, or flexibility. Or it could become another obligation disguised as success. Most people never make this shift because appearing wealthy feels rewarding right now. Being wealthy requires patience, restraint, and the ability to ignore noise. It often means saying no to things that look impressive in order to say yes to things that actually matter. Once this line becomes clear, financial decisions stop being confusing. You're no longer torn between enjoyment and responsibility. You understand that real wealth isn't about what people see today. It's about what your life looks like when no one is watching. And that understanding naturally leads to the final question: how do you step out of the illusion and build something real? Escaping the illusion of wealth doesn't require extreme sacrifices or dramatic moves. It requires a shift in priorities. The goal isn't to look disciplined, it's to build systems that quietly work in your favor over time. The first step is clarity. You need to know exactly where your money is going and why. Not to judge yourself, but to understand your patterns.
Most financial stress comes from unconscious decisions repeated daily. Awareness alone starts breaking that cycle. Next comes margin. Real wealth begins with breathing room. An emergency fund, even a small one, creates stability and reduces dependence on credit. It turns surprises into inconveniences instead of disasters. Without margin, every plan is fragile. From there, consistency matters more than intensity. Building wealth isn't about timing the market or chasing quick wins. It's about investing regularly, automatically, and patiently. When investing becomes a habit instead of a decision, emotion loses control. Another critical shift is living below your means, not as deprivation, but as strategy. This gap between what you earn and what you spend is where freedom is created. It's the space that allows investments to grow, options to expand, and pressure to decrease. Equally important is redefining success. Instead of measuring progress by what you can buy, measure it by what you no longer worry about. Fewer payments, less stress, more control over your time. These are the real markers of financial progress. Finally, accept that this path is quiet. There will be no applause for restraint, no validation for patience, but over time, something powerful happens. While others feel increasingly trapped by their lifestyle, you gain flexibility. While others depend on their next paycheck, you build independence. Leaving the illusion behind doesn't mean rejecting comfort or enjoyment. It means choosing long-term freedom over short-term approval. And once that choice is made consistently, wealth stops being something you chase and becomes something you quietly build.
Most people will spend their entire lives chasing the appearance of success, never realizing how expensive that chase really is. They'll upgrade their lifestyle, increase their income, and still feel the same pressure year after year. Not because they failed, but because they followed the illusion. Real wealth is different. It's quiet. It doesn't need approval. It gives you options when life changes and stability when things go wrong. And the moment you stop trying to look rich, you give yourself permission to actually become rich. If this video helped shift your perspective, take a second to support the channel. Like the video, subscribe to Felipe Sanz Investing, and comment below, would you rather look rich or be rich? Because the path to financial freedom doesn't start with more money, it starts with clearer thinking. And once you see the illusion for what it is, you can finally step out of it and begin building a future that doesn't depend on appearances.